Hey everybody, today I want to take a look at one of the most important things that Nintendo has done in, I don't know, a really long time. After nearly 20 years, Nintendo has finally decided that they're going to give us a brand new 2D Metroid game, and I'm equal parts excited and a little worried. So the first thing that I thought whenever I saw this trailer, when I saw this gameplay right here, is that, oh no, this is the Samus Returns engine. I don't like Samus Returns that much. I mean, it's a fine game for what it is, but like, it just doesn't feel very Metroid to me, and it never really has. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's a remake of Metroid 2, which is a very non-Metroid game in the first place. I mean, the world's not very open, and there's a lot of things that you have to get around to make it feel as Metroid as possible within that confined space. I still think AM2R did Metroid 2 better, but that doesn't mean Samus Returns is a bad game. But there's a lot of things about Samus Returns that I didn't like. First, the counter system. I never really liked it. It encouraged like stop and go gameplay, and that wasn't exciting. That wasn't fun. I like running and gunning. Granted, you could run and gun a lot more at the end of Samus Returns when you have all your power-ups and stuff, but by then you're already kind of burned out by the melee counter system. Second, with the melee counter system, a lot of the enemies were designed around it, so that the enemies, you couldn't really defeat them very quickly with just your blaster. A lot of the enemies were way too bullet spongy, they took way too many hits to destroy, and as a result, it didn't feel good to just run through the world because you couldn't destroy anything in your path quickly enough to feel like you're actually moving. Third, the wall jump was a lame, neutered piece of garbage that really didn't have much flexibility compared to all the 2D Metroid games of the past. Pretty much wall jump is easy as hell to do, and you just get launched in the opposite direction. There's not really much you can do with it unless that specific area is designed with the wall jump in mind in the first place. Again, not that fun. I'm glad it's at least there, but it could be way better. Third, did I say 3 yet? The 360-degree aiming I don't feel like was implemented quite well enough for me to enjoy it. It's, again, that stop and go gameplay. If I'm forced to like sit there and just move my arm around while I'm aiming, I mean, it's not as actiony and not as reactive as I've come to expect from Metroid games in general. And with the 360-degree aiming, it forced a lot of the bosses to have a phase where you can just sit there and pelt them with bullets and ammunition, because the design required that you be able to do things while Samus just isn't moving, while she's stationary and aiming around. That was part of the design of a lot of the bosses of the game, and it really lowers the quality, the overall quality of all the bosses in that game, especially given the fact that you fight about 50 Metroids throughout the entire game. Fourth, and perhaps the most important thing that I really disliked about Samus Returns, was the fact that the world design was it was lazy. It was very lazy, and it all comes down to the concept of the Aeon Pulse, which, if you don't remember, it was a button that you could press and it would show you where all the secrets in the walls were. Now, Metroid has always had this issue where if you don't know where to go, sometimes the solution is to just bomb random walls that have absolutely no indicator that there's something behind it, and then that's how you move forward. I will admit that that part's never been fun, but in my opinion, that should encourage more indicative game design and more indicative world design. If you need to go into that corner, and you need to bomb the corner, for example, there should be some kind of visual indicator saying that you need to bomb the corner, some kind of design that leads you there, and just something that makes it look out of the ordinary. Something that makes bombing it seem like a good idea, other than just, oh, I haven't bombed there yet, let's give it a shot. Metroid's always been pretty bad about that, and they've often implemented shortcuts like the X-ray scope in Super Metroid, which at least is better than the Aeon Pulse because it requires commitment and choice and a will to use it in a specific area, whereas the Aeon Pulse, you just press a button and you literally see everything that you can do in the area, and it just takes away any form of discovery or excitement of finding things on your own. You could say, oh, just don't use it, but that's not how the game was designed. It wasn't designed to not use it. Therefore, if you need to go through that wall, the only way that you're going to know that you need to go through that wall is because it's going to light up. There's not going to be anything in Samus Returns that says, oh hey, you can bomb here. Try it. So because of all of these things, as soon as I saw that Metroid Dread seemed to be using the Samus Returns engine, I was a little worried. Unfortunately, I think I'm one of the only people who does seem to be worried, and I feel like I'm one of the few people who didn't enjoy Samus Returns for what it was. Like I said, I thought it was a fun game, but a Metroid game, it just didn't feel right to me. But most people and most discourse that I've seen about it are just excited that Nintendo has made a new game in the Metroid line, in the 2D Metroid line. And not only did they announce it, but it's actually coming out within this year. And that is pretty exciting. But I'm not one to give Nintendo such easy passes. But I don't often go out of my way to watch gameplay trailers or gameplay presentations in general. But I did go out of my way to watch this one. So in this Nintendo Treehouse, they played Metroid Dread, and they went over. I mean, we can watch a little bit of it, but I'm not going to put this whole video up on the channel. But there's a few things that Metroid Dread does very differently from Samus Returns that immediately make it look like it's going to be a much better game and make me more excited. So here they show off the melee counter, which is very similar to how it is in Samus Returns, but there's going to be another thing that they've added that we'll see in a moment. The melee dash. That, on its own, is going to make the general movement, general exploration of this game, and general just running around, it's just going to be a lot more fun because the melee counter is no longer this stop-and-go affair. You can melee dash, do your thing, and move on with your life. You can even use it to kill enemies where you couldn't do that before. I do kind of hate that these tutorials are just plastered on the bottom of the screen. That's always felt in Metroid games for me, but I understand the audience that they're trying to target with these games, but you know, it's just, come on, Nintendo. Stop trying to hold my hand through every little thing. So another thing we see here is the map screen and the exploration and how you get around. So what they're showing here is that there's a map screen that the room blinks whenever there's something to discover in the room, which is always nice. It's good for completionists and good for trying to find your way forward. But here we can see that there's something in the wall. She shoots it, and then it opens up. It's so much different than how Samus Returns was. There's no Aeon Pulse, there's nothing giving away the fact that that's where you need to shoot other than your own vision. It's not like this bright glowing beacon saying, oh hey, shoot me, I am going to open way forward for you. Don't know why I did that accent. I'm not a big fan of these in-game cutscenes. Again, the in-game cutscenes, they're cool and all. They're cool the first time, but it's almost like, you know the whole adage, show, don't tell when it comes to storytelling? Metroid has always been about that. Okay, not always. Metroid Fusion was very tell, don't show. But there was still a lot of show, don't tell. But there's a lot. There's a lot that they can do other than putting you inside Samus's helmet. That's just as bad as telling, in my opinion. Even though it's a visual thing whenever you're going into those in-game cutscenes, it's still telling you what you need to look at, as opposed to letting you figure things out and letting the gameplay to tell you how you should feel. This gameplay sequence will tell you all you need without having to do all of this in-game cutscene stuff. Again, stuff that you don't really need in a Metroid game, in my opinion. One thing I want to point out is the save rooms they look so cool. They look so good. I love the visuals in this game. I'm not really a fan of 2.5D, but I gotta admit, they did a damn good job in making this look really nice. And a lot of these like little puzzles right here where you need to figure out how to get up, but you're in water and you just kind of look around, you see that you can shoot something and change the environment like this. Now you can jump, you can get up into the Matrix room and move on with your life. Like, I'm really looking forward to the exploration in this game. So if there's one thing that I'm worried about, like a lot, when it comes to Metroid Dread, other than perhaps the melee counter not being as good as it looks like it is, or the enemies being as bullet spongy as they were in Samus Returns, it's this. It's the Emmy and all of the sections that relate to it. So if you don't know, this is like a robot that just chases you around while you're inside of its rooms, inside of its territories. So you're constantly having to move and run away from this thing, and if it even so much as touches you, then you're dead. There's like nothing you can do about it. Granted, there's a lot of ways to run around these rooms and get away from this enemy, but I don't know, it just seems like one, an idea that's somewhat recycled from Metroid Fusion. I mean, not fully recycled, but it's like they took the idea and then they expanded on it, which I guess is something that you would want from a sequel, but at the same time, it's, I don't know, it just feels like something that we've done before, like running away from an enemy that's way too powerful that we cannot destroy yet. And I can guarantee that we're going to be destroying the Emmys at the end of the game. It just feels like we're treading old ground. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know, it just, with it being such a prominent feature, it feels like it might get in the way more than it might cause actual fun. And here's another section where they're running around with the Emmy. It's just, the fact that it's an instant kill whenever it touches you, again, it's another thing that just disrupts the gameplay. Just like, let it hurt you. Maybe it does a lot of damage, but like an instant kill just isn't, it's not as enjoyable as it could be, you know? Another thing that I was happy to see make a return is the charge beam pseudo screw attack. I mean, that's always been a fun ability in like Super Metroid and earlier Metroids. It's just a fun little synergy between Samus's moves. I hope to see a lot more of that in this game. I'm not holding my breath for that, and I don't really see it as a requirement. It just shows that the developers are thinking and that they care about, I guess, the legacy of Metroid. So this scene right here, this is like one of the biggest things that worries me about this game, because Samus Returns was very, like, there were so many bullet spongy enemies that you couldn't run through. There's always going to be some bullet spongy enemies in games, like something that's going to force you to stop and assess and do your thing. But this is like, this is almost asking you to just counter and nothing else. But again, it's something that I'd have to play with and see. It looks like you could easily jump over this, maybe not easily jump over this creature, but if you were good enough, there's enough room to go over the top and not destroy it if you don't need to. You could probably just unload on it, because it does seem to be taking damage from these shots. There seems to be a lot of different ways to destroy this creature, and as long as there's not too many enemies that have that amount of health, then I think we're going to be fine. Because these bats, like even in Samus Returns, the stupid little bat creatures would take so many hits from your unupgraded arm cannon. This is, again, like I said earlier, this is already such a huge improvement. So that's the end of the first part of the gameplay videos. I haven't actually seen the second one yet, so let's see what they have going on here. I'm gonna skim through it too, just like I did with the other one. So this is really interesting. The spider walls, like the spider ball is always a thing that's not always a thing, but it's been a thing that's existed since Metroid 2, where you go into your ball form and you can just kind of cling to walls. In Metroid 2, it was very free form. You could cling to just about any wall. In Samus Returns, there were special walls that you couldn't cling to, but the power-up was still there, and it was still, it still served its purpose. Super Metroid didn't have anything like that, but the Metroid Prime games have spider ball tracks. I don't think Metroid Fusion had anything like that. Okay, so it's not as ubiquitous as I thought it was, but it's still, like, they're talking about this as if it's a new power-up, but it's, I mean, it technically is, but it's basically just Spider Ball with Spider Ball tracks in 2D, even though in 2D they never needed Spider Ball tracks. But this allows you to still use your arm cannon while you're moving around, which is at least an extra addition to it. But I don't know, the movement of it feels really clunky and slow. Again, I'm gonna have to reserve my judgment for that one. It doesn't seem fun to use. It seems clunky. It's like a bio door? Ew, that's a dick. That's a dick.
Also a note for anyone who hasn't yet seen the first segment, this is the first new 2D Metroid in 19 years, so this is very, very exciting for me.
Another in-game cutscene. Cool.
Yeah, I like how you countered that.
I don't love it.
Shot it.
I love how it looks.
Yeah, so
I just don't love how it
like
disrupts the
you
gameplay.
Want to watch and see how you can counter them, or if you need to tackle them in a different
Oh,
way. So this
First
is
boss?
Yes. He is one of the bosses that you'll encounter in Metroid Dread. We happen to see him very
that was a weird
briefly
cut.
in the first segment. It was the very shimmery creature that was lurking in the background.
No longer lurking.
Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah.
He's blurping.
He just shot that projectile that he shot out of his mouth.
So it looks
Got
like the
some
game wants you to
missiles.
go underneath its tail, try and be a big brave boy, and just go underneath the tail when it swoops, so you can trap yourself in a cage with it and unload on its face with a bunch of missiles.
It looks like his face is the weak spot right now.
I would like for him to be a little faster, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't seem like
Yeah, that
he's
tail.
giving much of a challenge.
Pretty
I mean, I guess a creature that slides itself on the ground, that's not intelligent enough to not get its tail stuck, probably isn't going to be very high on the evolutionary chain,
so
despite how scary it
since
looks.
missile count's running
The charge
low,
beam
they use
effective
charge
against
beam,
bosses
which is
like
also
before.
effective.
Ooh, it's changing. Multi-phase boss fight with the weak point changing.
Turned invisible. Great.
What he needed was to be invisible. That's what I think.
That makes
But here
it a
you can
little
kind of see
harder
like
to
the stop and go
find
gameplay that
his
the
face,
that the
but
360-degree aiming kind of
Otherwise,
encourages in its design,
Yep. So that
because
will really
it has to give you
weak
enough
spot too.
period. It has to give you enough time to be able to accurately aim and move. But I'm hoping that there's difficulty settings, and I'm hoping that the difficulty settings don't just make enemies less spongy or more spongy. But I hope that they like do increase damage. I hope that they make the AI faster, because this enemy would be very, very, very interesting if all of its movements and all of its options were sped up by like 100%. I could do without all of these in-game cutscenes though, jeez.
Probably used to my advantage. Oh. And now it reared its ugly head and turned to its backside, which is probably its best side.
What?
Also
both sides
rearing
of
for
it.
something.
What are you
I
doing?
don't-
Ow!
Okay.
What?
No.
Oh, slide under. That's the... There we go.
Oh, nice
nice.
slide.
Oh no, these are back.
So we're turning here to a cinematic.
I don't like
but
these.
I am effectively
Again, they're
throwing
they're flow
missiles
breaking.
at,
Like they're cool from an
space.
action and cinematic point of view, but after the first or second time, it's just like you don't want to see these anymore. They're not as cool.
Yeah, jumping right into a box.
They're not gameplay in my opinion. They're just
Okay. Yep. So those magnetic.
They're
strips
just,
were very handy there.
they're just
Yeah,
there. You know?
All of your abilities.
Am I making
If
sense?
you're gonna be.
Ow.
Oh, you got poked.
No.
And that poison gas doesn't look too healthy.
That's actually a really good use of the 360-degree aiming while you're waiting out an
Oh,
attack
indeed.
that
This
you
one's
can't
always
be on the
trying to
floor
back you
for.
into a corner too. It's not very nice. If you-
She
if
keeps
you
trying to
stay
jump
up
over
there,
that and keeps getting punished for
this
it.
tail will go for you as well. So there's no really safe spot. Oh.
Pretty long boss fight for the beginning of the
Here,
game
come here.
too.
Yes.
Get a really good look at her suit here.
Yeah, I'd be watching.
What are you
for a moment,
doing?
too.
What is she doing?
Sitting down.
Yes.
I was just fading away. Oh, there was. Oh, this is how she gets her cloak ability.
Ooh, what do we get?
So the Phantom Cloak is considered an Aeon ability.
This one actually.
I hope that doesn't mean that an Aeon Pulse is going to be in the game. Even if it's at the very end where you're expected to use it for 100%, like, it's still, it's not a satisfying ability, and never is. I do like the way the new Aeon bar looks, though, or works, not looks. It's definitely more active as opposed to like another bar that you have to fill up.
This is a feature which is an
No, there are different areas entirely, and they're not connected.
So now we're in
No.
and as you can see in the map, this game plays very differently where you start from
Oh,
center
come on, man.
working your way up.
That's not cool.
So, it is a very different feeling. Really builds up
The loading screen.
do I say
That's not cool.
isolation?
It really does.
Ugh.
It showed you had kind of a long way to go to the surface there too.
It's a long loading screen, too. Holy crap.
But they are really cool, very satisfying.
I like how that counter works. That's a fun
And
counter.
that place is very
Heat room.
hot. We don't
Nice.
have an upgrade for that yet, so we'll have to come back later.
I like how the
and
heat starts pouring out of the
explore.
door,
We do have an
too.
available- that
Oh.
looks like an area. Oh, and yes.
Look at that.
That's here.
That's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier, where you
Sneaky.
need the thought. Like
No.
the game needs to show you that this is a possibility, as opposed to
You never
not showing you.
underestimate the little enemies.
I mean, I guess-
they can really mess
Obviously,
it up.
but
They can. Especially,
We're gonna
That sense of dread you're
them.
feeling is very warranted.
well, I feel it.
green
Palms
and
have their little beeping.
Those
It's blue though. Look.
Yeah, so Samus has been able to.
again, in-game cutscene telling you what to do with the cloak and not like showing it through the gameplay. It's still a good solution. At least this tells the player what they can do with the cloak, but it removes any sense of experimentation. It removes like the idea from the player's brain, like, can I do that? No, the game tells you you can. Not as cool.
Use the Phantom Cloak to her advantage by escaping.
Not pretty quick.
So if the wall jump wasn't neutered as it is, this would not be a difficult thing to get past with sequence breaking. And with the areas being as separated as they are, like, you don't just go into a different named biome, you go into a completely different area through those elevators, and because of that, I wonder what the probability of sequence breaking the game at all is. Again, we'll have to see, and I'm hoping that there's some sequence breaking that has made it in, because like Metroid Zero Mission, whenever it was remade, was like designed with the ability to sequence break in mind. Like, there's so many very easy sequence breaks to do if you like know what to do, and none of them are even glitch related. It's just the way the world was designed, with the way the power-ups are and the way certain things allow you to get through certain other things, and because of the optional ability of the wall jump and how powerful that can be. I'm just hoping that there's something like that in here, but Samus Returns didn't really have any of those optional abilities until the end of the game, where there was the Spider Spark, which was a cool ability, but it really didn't allow anything other than just making the Queen fight easier and finishing collection of all of the items. I wonder if you're just not allowed to wall jump on the magnet walls.
I don't know if anyone else is forgetting to breathe. Remember to breathe.
I did.
Oh, that's a cool structure.
Alright.
No, does that
This
mean
statue
Aeon?
is really mysterious, but this is the cliffhanger. We're going to stop here.
This is where they stop.
Again, we don't really want to spoil too much of the story, but we wanted to give.
Oh man, every statue that kind of looked like that in Samus Returns was an Aeon ability. I just hope that if there's more Aeon abilities, they're done better than they were in Samus Returns, and that there's no Aeon Pulse.
On behalf of everyone at Nintendo, thanks for watching, and keep smiling.
Is that Nintendo's motto? Or is that just him? Because if it's him, it's cool. If it's Nintendo, it's just like, ooh. I don't know, having watched all that, like, I am excited for the game. I am looking forward to playing it. I'm surprised that it's coming out so soon. I'm excited that it's coming out so soon. I hope it doesn't get pushed back. I hope it doesn't get canceled. Surprised. I don't think they'd cancel it after hyping it up this much and having so much gameplay done. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm just hoping that all of my worries are unfounded, unwarranted, and I'm hoping that it's just an incredibly good time all around. Now that's going to be it for this video. If you can do me a favor and shoot a missile at that like button for me, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.